Rock and roll has always been a battleground of egos, where larger-than-life personalities clash and create sparks that ignite entire movements. But the recent clash between Pink Floyd's Roger Waters and the Osbourne family was something else entirely. It was a confrontation that transcended the usual rock star rivalries. It wasn't just another spat. It was raw, personal, and cut to the core of music, family, and legacy. The tension was palpable, and the stakes were higher than ever before. On September 2nd, 2025, Jack Osbourne, grieving his father Ozzy's recent passing, fired back at Waters on social media after a particularly harsh interview. The interview had criticized Ozzy's contributions to rock music, questioning his influence and legacy. This wasn't just celebrity drama, it was a public reckoning about respect, legacy, and the bonds of family, played out for all to see. Fans and critics alike were drawn into the fray, taking sides and voicing their opinions. Even rock legends are mortal, and their legacies are fiercely protected by those they leave behind. The Osbourne family's response was a testament to their love and respect for Ozzy, ensuring that his memory would be honored and his contributions to music would never be forgotten. The incident sparked a broader conversation about how we remember our musical icons and the importance of preserving their legacies. It reminded us that behind the fame and the music, there are real people with real emotions, fighting to keep the flame of their loved ones burning bright. Roger Waters has always been known for his unfiltered honesty and his willingness to speak his mind, no matter the consequences. Throughout his career, he's never shied away from controversy, often using his platform to challenge the status quo and provoke thought. But sometimes that bluntness can cross a line, especially when emotions are still raw. In a recent interview with The Independent Inc., Waters made comments about Ozzy Osbourne that shocked both fans and critics alike. While Waters is no stranger to making bold statements, this time his words seem to go beyond mere opinion. He didn't just critique Ozzy's music, he dismissed Black Sabbath's entire legacy and openly mocked Ozzy's later career in television, calling it idiocy and nonsense. What made Waters' remarks especially painful was their timing. Just 6 weeks had passed since Ozzy's death, a period when fans were still coming to terms with the loss of a rock icon. The memory of Ozzy's final emotional tribute concert was still vivid in everyone's minds, and the music world was still in mourning. For many, Ozzy wasn't just a performer, he was a symbol of resilience, creativity, and the enduring power of rock and roll. Fans gathered at vigils, held up tribute signs, and shared stories of how his music had shaped their lives. In that context, Waters' comments felt less like criticism and more like a personal attack. The sting of Waters' words was felt deeply. It wasn't just a difference in musical taste, it felt like a calculated insult that dismissed everything Ozzy had accomplished. For fans, it was as if Waters was trying to erase decades of influence and invalidate the impact Ozzy had on generations of listeners. By attacking both the music and the man, Waters positioned himself as an arbiter of taste, as if he alone could decide what mattered in the world of rock. But this time, his words didn't just spark debate, they reopened a fresh wound, and many felt he had gone too far. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Social media erupted with angry comments, fans organized protests at music events, and even fellow musicians spoke out in defense of Ozzy's legacy. The controversy quickly became a flashpoint, igniting passionate discussions about respect, legacy, and the responsibility that comes with fame. In the end, Waters' remarks served as a stark reminder. Even legends must remember the weight their words carry, especially when the world is still grieving the loss of another. In moments like these, it's clear that opinions can do more than spark conversation. They can shape legacies for better or worse. The Osbournes don't back down from a fight, especially when it's about family. Jack Osbourne's Instagram response was pure, unfiltered rage. "Hey, Roger Waters, FKU!" He called Waters pathetic and out of touch, accusing him of seeking attention by trashing others. The most brutal line, "My father always thought you were a CT. Thanks for proving him right." This wasn't just a son defending his dad. It was a declaration that the Osbourne legacy wouldn't be tarnished without a fight. Jack's raw honesty struck a chord with thousands. Sometimes grief speaks loudest. There's an unspoken rule. Respect the dead, especially in public. For Jack, Waters' comments weren't just criticism, they were an attack on his father's very essence. When your parent is a public figure, defending their legacy becomes part of grieving. Jack's response was about more than Ozzy's reputation. It was about protecting his own identity and family history. To stay silent would be to let a stranger rewrite his father's story. Defending a loved one's name is the last act of love we can give. Jack made sure Ozzy's legacy would be remembered with defiance, not dismissal. In today's world, public feuds are media gold. Waters' comments and Jack's fiery response became instant content, fueling endless debate and outrage online. For Waters, controversy keeps him relevant. For Jack, it was about honor. Social media turned this into a real-time spectacle, with fans and media amplifying every word. The cycle benefits everyone, except for nuance and understanding. The legacies of both men were reduced to headlines and hashtags. Outrage sells, but it rarely tells the whole story. Jack's viral response didn't just spark a few heated comments. It split the internet wide open, transforming what started as a personal feud into a full-blown cultural clash between two of rock's most passionate fan bases. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Jack and Roger Waters anymore. It was about what these bands meant to millions of people and the values they represented. Sabbath fans, fiercely loyal and proud of their roots, saw Waters' remarks as more than just criticism. They saw them as a kind of elitist snobbery, a direct insult to the working-class spirit and the raw, unfiltered energy that Black Sabbath embodied. For many, Sabbath's music was about survival, about finding hope and power in the face of adversity. Waters' words felt like a dismissal of everything they stood for. To these fans, Ozzy Osbourne wasn't just a frontman. He was a living legend, a symbol of resilience and authenticity. His wild persona and unmistakable voice represented a kind of freedom that couldn't be measured by technical skill or intellectual analysis. Ozzy was the heart and soul of a movement that gave a voice to the voiceless. On the other side, Pink Floyd fans found themselves split. Some admired Waters' blunt honesty, seeing it as a mark of artistic integrity and a refusal to sugarcoat his opinions. They argued that Floyd's music was about pushing boundaries, challenging norms, and exploring the depths of the human mind. But others cringed at the harshness of his words, feeling that his criticism crossed a line and undermined the spirit of unity that music should inspire. Caught in the middle were countless rock fans who loved both bands. For them, the feud was confusing and disappointing. They cherished the heavy riffs of Sabbath and the psychedelic journeys of Floyd, and couldn't understand why there had to be a competition at all. Many felt let down by the needless jab, wishing the focus could return to the music itself rather than personal attacks. The feud forced fans to pick sides, even if they didn't want to. Online forums and living rooms alike became battlegrounds, with friends and strangers debating not just which band was better, but what kind of person you were if you preferred one over the other. It was no longer just about taste. It was about identity, values, and belonging. The whole controversy exposed old divides that have always existed in music: intellect versus instinct, complexity versus raw power, the cerebral versus the visceral. It was a reminder that music isn't just sound. It's a reflection of who we are, how we see the world, and what we value most deeply. In the end, the feud was about much more than music. It was about identity, about the tribes we choose and the stories we tell ourselves about what matters. Whether you stood with Sabbath, Floyd, or somewhere in between, the debate revealed just how personal music can be and how it shapes the way we see ourselves and each other. Black Sabbath and Pink Floyd are titans, but their worlds couldn't be more different. Sabbath's music was forged in the industrial grit of Birmingham, raw, heavy, and visceral, a voice for the voiceless. Ozzy was instinct and emotion, not philosophy. Pink Floyd, led by Waters, was cerebral, conceptual, and layered. Music for the mind as much as the soul. Sabbath's power was in its simplicity, Floyd's in its complexity. Waters' dismissal of Sabbath wasn't just taste, it was a fundamental misunderstanding of what their music meant. Both bands changed music forever, each in their own way. Sometimes a sledgehammer and a scalpel are both masterpieces. Online fandoms are powerful, but they can quickly become echo chambers. Sabbath groups condemned Waters while Floyd forums defended him, each side amplifying their own outrage. Algorithms fed the fire, drowning out any nuanced discussion. The feud became less about what was said and more about tribal loyalty. In this environment, appreciating both bands and criticizing both became nearly impossible. The war of words served no one but the outrage machine. When the dust settles, the music remains. Black Sabbath's riffs and Pink Floyd's melodies will outlast any feud. This episode reminds us, music isn't a competition and respect matters. Dismissing an entire genre or artist only limits our own experience. At its best, music unites us across backgrounds, beliefs, and generations. Ozzy and Waters both gave the world a place to belong, each in their own way. The feud is a story of grief and ego, but the real legacy is connection. Honor the music that moves you and respect others' right to do the same. That's how legends truly live on.